Okay, it's time for this standard review. You'll need your GCF calculator and the Math Papa calculator. Both of them are used on this test. Now, you also have this and a piece of scratch paper where all your factoring is going to take place. Okay. Now, perform the indicated operation. This time the operation's multiplication, so you don't extend the lines. It's the 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what you do is go make parentheses where they're needed, and all things. You have to do the top and the bottom in multiplication. Okay, so I have 4 expressions. I take x minus 3, that's on top. 6x second minus 96 is on top. 2 times x minus 8 is on the bottom. And x to the second minus 9 is on the bottom. So any factoring I do, that's where I'm going to put my new expressions. Okay, so this right here, GCF DOPS, because it's 2 terms. And my GCF, I wouldn't do the negative, I wouldn't do x, and 1's a GCF, and that's definitely not a DOPS because 3 is not a perfect square. So we don't do anything with this, it's prime. So on top, I leave that as x minus 3. Now also on top, we had the 6x to the second minus 96. Let's see if I can rewrite that. GCF DOPS. Okay, so I don't need the negative, I don't need x, but the greatest common factor between 6 and 96 is, come on you piece of crap, it's 6. I'm trying to get this to work here. Is 6. Okay, so 6 is factored out, okay, and then go divide by 6, and you get 1x to the second minus 16, okay. Now this definitely is a DOPS because you have your minus, you got 4 times 4, x to the second powers here, and then 1, 1. Now it's important you drop the 6 down, that doesn't just go away, so you got 1x, 4, and 4, okay. So you rewrite that topic, you put that on top. 6 parentheses, if it's 1x, just put x plus 4 and x minus 4. Okay, now on the bottom we have 2 terms, so we have the GCF. And then we see if we can do a difference of perfect squares. Okay, GCF, negative, nope. X on everything, nope. 2 and 8, the GCF on that one is 2. Okay, so I factor out a 2. And then I get 1x minus 4. Now the minus is here, but the second power's not, so I can't do the DOPS, okay? But I rewrite this as 2 parentheses x minus 4 on bottom. Okay, x second minus 9. GCF and DOPS. Okay, negative, no. X on everything, no. GCF's 1, okay. Now you have the minus, x to the seconds here, and 9's 3 times 3, and then I put 1 in front of each x. So it's 1x plus 3, 1x minus 3. There was no GCF, so I don't put anything beside the parentheses. So put parentheses x plus 3, parentheses x minus 3. Again, with the 1's in front. Now cross out parentheses where possible. Out, 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 and these 2 stay. You drop those down on 3 though. And after you drop them down, you go cross them out. Okay, now stuff outside, I have a 6 and a 2. Well, the GCF there's 2, so you reduce them by the GCF. So divide by 2, that becomes 3. that becomes 1. You really don't have to put the 1, but I will. Okay. Okay, my next problem. Another multiplication. So 1, 2, and 3. Put the parentheses here, here, not here. So you drag that over to the top because you're not going to factor that. It just carries over. Okay, now I go factor those 3 expressions. So I've got 16x to the second minus 8x plus 1. That's on top. Now this one here is on top, but I'm not going to factor that. Okay, I have x to the third minus 7x to the second plus 12x, and that's on bottom. That's 20x to the second minus 5x on bottom. Okay, now let's start factoring. So the top here, GCF and T-chart. Negative in front, no way. X on everything, nope. 16, 8, and 1's 1, so out. Okay, positive 16 times positive 1 is positive 16. So it's a sum trying to get to 8, which is negative. 1 and 16 doesn't do it. 2 and 8, that's 10. 3 is a decimal. 4 and 4 will do it. Now that's negative, so I need negative on the, well, there is no larger one, so I just put a negative on one of the 4s. Positive means the signs have to be the same, so they are the same. And my A coefficient is 16x to the second. Well, with 16, I can't just go x minus 4. I got to put 16x minus 4 and 16x minus 4. And then the greatest common factor out of 16 and 4 is 4. Here, I'll show you. It's 4. So you're going to divide by 4 in each one of these. And then I get 4x minus 1. Cross that out. And then 4x minus 1. Now go check your GCF box. You didn't have anything to put here. So on top, okay, I put 4x minus 1 and another 4x minus 1. Okay, now I move to the bottom. 3 terms, so it'd be GCF. And then my table. Don't need the negative. I do have x on everything. 1, 7, and 12 is 1, but since it's 1x, we definitely put that there. Now go divide everything by 1x. And the x's go away on the last one. So 1x to the second minus 7x plus 12, and then ABC. 1 times 12 is 12, positive. Sum of 7, negative. 1 and 12, no. 2 and 6, no. 3 and 4, yes. Apply negative to the larger number, and then the positive means the signs are the same. Okay, A is just 1, x to the second, so I can just put that as x minus 3 times x minus 4. Now in the GCF box, we got the 1x. Don't forget about that. So on bottom, you put 1x, parentheses, x minus 3, parentheses, x minus 4. Okay, now here's 2 terms, so that's greatest common factor and the difference of perfect squares. I will not need the negative. I do need x, and then 20 and 5, the GCF is 5. Okay, so 5x is pulled out. And that leaves me with 4x minus 1. Okay, now we do have a minus, but the x isn't to the second power. So cross that out. So we rewrite on the bottom 5x parentheses 4x minus 1. And now I start crossing off. Well, really the only common parentheses I have on top and bottom is the 4x minus 1, but you can't get rid of all 3. It's only 2 at a time. So these other parentheses stick around in the product. 4x minus 1, and then x minus 3, and x minus 4. Now go cross them out. Okay, so on top we have 15x to the third. Then on bottom I have a 1x and a 5x. We need to times those, not add them. Okay, that's 5x to the second. Okay, now 15 and 5, the GCF's 5, so we divide by 5. That gives me 3 and 1. Now with the x's, I take the smaller one away and then subtract 2, whatever that was, from the bigger one. That's x to the first, which is just x. Okay, now we're solving equations. Okay, there's only two ratios, so I go to my A, B, C, and D. Okay, A is 3, B is 2x plus 4, C is 1x minus 3, and D is 1x plus 2. Now this side's easy because I don't have an x in one of the parentheses, so I just do my distribution. That's 6x plus 12. Now this is a FOIL because you got two terms in each parentheses, so I'm gonna use Math Papa. I mean, you can FOIL it on a piece of scratch paper if you want, but I think it's easier if I won't make any little mistakes if I just multiply 1x minus 3 times 1x plus 2. That gives me x to the second, 1x to the second minus 1x minus 6. Now, here's where you know there's two answers now because you have x to the second. But you have x to the second. Now go see if you have regular x to the first. Yeah, you do. So since you have them both, you need to clear one side of the equation and factor. Now, where's your larger x squared? Right here. Now, go to the other side and write clear. You clear that. So you subtract 6x from the negative 1x. Then you minus 12 from your negative 6. So that's 1. Negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7. And negative 6 minus 12 is negative 18. So that's three terms, GCF and T. Gets me to my two answers. I do not need the negative. X is not on everything. 1, 7, and 18 is 1. 1 times negative 18 is negative 18. So it's a difference trying to get to 7, which is a negative up there. It's not a plus, it's a negative. Plus, negative, and minus mean the same thing. 1 and 18, nope. 2 and 9, bingo. 7 being negative. Plus. Now my A is 1x to the second, so since A is 1, you put x plus 2, x minus 9, didn't have the GCF, so F1, F2, and I solve. So x plus 2 can equal 0, x minus 9 can equal 0. So I subtract 2, I get negative 2, and then I add 9, I get 9. Okay? So A, B, C, D. Okay, you can use MatPop if you want. This side I really don't have to because I just distribute the 3. But when I have 2 terms by 2 terms, I'm going to use that. Okay, and then when you end up with, you'll see how many answers. When you have an x that's not to the second, then you set that up and clear the side that doesn't have x to the second. Or if there's x second on both sides, you clear the one with the smaller number in front. Okay, now this is a different ball game here. We have to solve for that, but there's 3 ratios, so we extend the lines and we go to the LCD. Now, put parentheses on top. That one needs it, but then just drop everything down. Okay, you don't need to factor the tops when you find the LCD. Now the bottoms I put parentheses. Okay, not on there, on here. I'm going to drop that one down because I can't do anything with it. And x plus 6, so I really just need to write that here. That's 2 terms, okay? So GCF DOPS. Now our GCF would be 1 here, and that's definitely not a dot, so that's a prime expression. We don't rewrite it. Since I didn't really do anything, we drop the x plus 6 down, but it needs its parentheses. And then I go to work with my LCD. So I have, for parentheses, I have x plus 6. And I say, okay, do you have any whole numbers that aren't in parentheses on bottom? No, you don't. So no outer whole numbers. But you have an x not in parentheses, so outer x, or outside x, whatever you want to call it. So 1, 0, 1. So that 0 I raise by an x plus 6 factor. Outer x, I got 0, 1, 0. Remember, if it's in parentheses, it doesn't count. So I put x, x. You can put times x if you want. X, x. Now this side, we just got 13x. I mean, there's nothing to multiply by. And this side, I go to my calculator. So I go to 1x plus, and then parentheses, x plus 1, parentheses, x plus 6. Otherwise, you have to FOIL that out and collect like terms. It's miserable. So 1x is second plus 8x plus 6. Now, I know how many answers. There's 2. You should know that because of this. Now, do you have any other x's that aren't to the second? Yeah, so you have 2 types of x's. Set it up to be cleared. Now, where's the highest x to the second I have? Right here. So we clear the opposite side. Subtract 13x from your 8x. So that's 1. 8, positive 8 minus 13 is negative 5, and then I got 6. So I go set up my table. And t. GCF's 1. 1 times 6 is 6, positive. It's a sum of 5, not a difference. Okay, so 1 and 6, well, no. Okay. 2 and 3, yep, there's my sum of 5. Now it's negative 5, so I need negative 3 for sure, and that positive means the signs are the same. Now my a is just a 1x to the second, so I just go x minus 2, x minus 3. And I got f1, f2. So x minus 2 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. So I add 2, 2, add 3. So 2 and 3 are the 2 answers to the problem. Okay, together you and a friend can type 50 pages of a report in 3 hours. You can type twice as fast as your friend. How long would it take each of you to complete the job alone? So I'm dealing with units here, pages and hours. X is hours, Y is pages. So it'd be pages per hour. I don't have that, but it is linear because you can type at a constant rate. So X is hours. We start at 0 hours, but then I don't have any pages typed if I work 0 hours. So the line does me no good. Okay, so I go to my ratios, but I need 3 of them because I got me, my friend, and then when we work together on the other side of the equation. Now it's important we put the hours here on bottom pages here. Now what it gives you, the ratio, is the together, 50 over 3. Now working separate, we'd still have 50 pages. We just don't know how long it takes, but I know one of us can do it twice as fast, so times 2 to one of them. So 3 ratios, we make an extension. We're going to do the LCD up here. I don't have any so I drop everything down, okay? I don't have to make any parentheses because there's no addition or subtraction within the numerators or denominators. Okay, so LCD, I have an outer 2, an outer 3, and an outer x. Now I compare the 3 fractions. So outer 2, 0, 1, 0. So I raise this by a factor of 2. I raise this by a factor of 2. Now outer 3, I have 0, 0, 1. And I raise these by a 3 and by a 3. I'm not quite there yet. They're not the same. Outer x, 1, 1, 0. So times x times x. Now the bottoms are gone. Now I use a regular calculator. I take 50 times 2 times 3. Oops. 50 times 2 times 3 plus 50 times 3, 450. Meanwhile, on the other side, I take 50 times 2 is 100, slap the x on the behind. Divide by 100. 450 divided by 100 is 4.5. Now to find the other one, you know it's twice longer than that, so times 2, that's 9. Okay, I'm not going to do this one because it's exactly the same process as the last problem. Okay, number 7. So far I've made 80 out of 120 field goals. How many consecutive field goals would I have to make to raise the average to 170? So there's the wanted average and the current average. So you set up a proportion right away. Your wanted average is a percent, 75% over 100%, okay? But currently you made 80 of 120. If you divide 80 by 120, that's not 75%. So you need to add to the number of field goals made, which automatically adds to the number you attempt, okay? So you go A, B, C, and D. So A is multiplied by B, C is multiplied by D. A is 75, B is 120 plus 1x, C is 80 plus 1x, and D is 100. Okay, so I distribute. 75 times 120 is 9,000. Plus 75x. Now on the other side, I distribute 80 times 100 is 8,000, and then 1x times 100 is 100x. Now you got only one answer to the problem, so you collect the x's to one side. Okay, you don't worry about clearing one side, just get the x's together. So 9,000 is equal to 8,000 plus 25x. Then I subtract the 8,000. That's 1,000. So 1,000 equals 25x. And then 1,000 divided by 25 is 40. 40 field goals. Highly unlikely you can make that many in a row, but that's fine. Number 8, I didn't give you a lot of room for the table. It's a speed problem. 2 jets fly the same amount of time. One jet flies 1,200 miles while the second flies 1,000 miles. If the first jet travels an average of 50 miles per hour faster than the second, faster being the key word, for how long are the jets in the air? So set up your table kind of small here, okay? Because you need some working room here. So you got the fast and the slow, then the speed, the distance, and the time. So the speed, it says 50 miles per hour, but faster, so you don't know the speed. So the fast is x plus 50, and this is x. Now the distance traveled is 1,200 and 1,000. So 1,200 is the x plus 50, because that's faster than the lesser one's the x. Now time, you don't have any idea what the time was. You just know the times are equal, okay? So I put 1,200 over x plus 50. It's distance on top. You can't mess that up when doing this problem. You can't put x plus 50 over 1,200. Now set them equal to each other so they form a proportion. And put that in parentheses there. That's for later on. And then I do my A, B, C, D. It's called cross products. You don't need the LCD if there's only two. C. I mean, you could do it, but it'd be stupid. A is 1200, B is X, C is 1000, and D is 1X plus 50. So that's 1200X. The other side you have 1000X plus 50,000. 1,000 times 50s. So collect your X's on one side. So that's 200X equals 50,000. Divide by 200. So 50,000 divided by 200 is 250. That is not the answer you want to write. That is your speed, okay? You need to find the time, so you put 250 here. You can also put it there, okay? So 1,000 divided by 250 is 4, okay? Now, let's see if that's 4. Well, I know 250 plus 50 is 300. Okay, so 4 is the answer I want to roll with. Okay, now the last problem, the table's here because that's a little bit hard to remember, okay? Because it's a different distance speed table than you're used to. Al paddles 55 meters per minute in still water, means without any wind. It is 150 miles upstream. When he goes back downstream, he goes with the current. It takes Al 6 minutes to go there and back. What's the current speed? So down there's your answer. So the distance itself is just by the way, this needs to be meters, okay, not miles. They all need to be a common distance unit to solve this. Otherwise, you have to do a bunch of conversions. It's annoying. Pretty sure I wrote that wrong. Okay, the distance is 150 up, 150 down, 300 total. Now delete that. Now your speed is 55 meters per minute. So start with 55. But when you go up, you subtract. And when you go down, you add. Okay, now the time it took is 6. But that's the total time. So underline it, and you don't say it's 3 and 3 because it's going to take you longer going up than it does down. These are not equal. Okay, put those in parentheses, and you use distance over speed. 150, then parentheses 55 minus x, and then 150, parentheses 55 plus x. And what we have, folks, is an equation. Adding them equals that. So that's 3 ratios, so extend everything. You don't even have to think about factoring on this at the beginning. Yeah, you're not going to factor at all in any of the story problems on this. Drop it. 6, and then we got to find our LCD. So we got the 2 parentheses, 55 minus x, and 55 plus x. There's no outer whole numbers down there. There's no outer x's. So 55 minus x, 100. So I bring in a factor of 55 minus x, and right there. Okay, 55 plus x, 010. So I bring in a factor of 55 plus x, and on top, same with this one. Now cross it out, and we're definitely going to math, Papa. So on this side, I enter that in. So 150, parentheses 55 plus x, close it, plus 150 times and then the parentheses of 55 minus x, okay? Okay, you got 16,500. Now let's see what the other side tells us. Okay, we got 6, and then 55 minus x, 55 plus x, negative 6x to the second plus 18,150. Now there's two answers, but you don't have to factor this because you don't have an x that isn't to the second. That's good, so you undo all the operations around the x to the second. Factoring is a last resort, okay? So negative 16,000, negative 1,650. Then I divide by negative 6. Just keep that on your calculator and just hit divide, negative 6, 275, okay? Now that's only x to the second, okay? So I square root 275, 16.58. The negative is not a real answer to a story problem. You go with the positive, okay?